Behind every bit of mom wisdom is a story of a real mom and real kids just trying to love each other well. Whether you're cozied up on the couch with a mug of coffee or out for a walk, you're welcome to join us as we share stories and laugh, learn, and grow together. It's the iMom Podcast. Welcome to the iMom Podcast. I'm Abby with Susan and Megan, and we're very excited that Laura Rutledge is back with us again. If you don't know Laura, she's a reporter for Monday Night Football and a host on NFL Live on ESPN and SEC Nation on the SEC Network. She's wife and mother of two, and you can find her on Instagram at Laura M. Rutledge. And Laura, my son we were at Outback, and he was like staring at the TV screen trying to find you the other night. So I was like, it might be my friend Laura, and he's just staring up at the screen.
So cute. Yeah. I was probably somewhere in the rain, really cold.
Probably. So do you guys remember growing up and talking about how many kids you wanted? And like, do you ever like think back to your answer and kind of laugh at it now?
No, but I laugh at my husband's. Yes, he wanted
absolutely.
10.
That is crazy. Megan, why do you laugh?
Because now I have two, and I used to say I wanted 4 to 5, and then I wanted a big family because I grew up in a big family. And now with two, we're like debating a third.
Oh, yeah.
So I cannot imagine having 5.
Yeah. Laura, did you ever play the game MASH? You know, like where you can write your options for the number of kids you have, and like you'd write like 0 or 9.
I think so. I'm trying to remember. I think I would always say 3. And it's so funny now because, I mean, Megan, I can totally relate. I feel like when they're so little, you're like, ooh, do we really need another one of these? But then even last night, my husband is traveling right now, and I text him, I said, I think I want another baby. And he was like, okay. So wow. It is, they're just such a blessing. It's hard to say, you know, that you don't want more because they're all so great.
Yeah. So now that you're actually a mom, all 3 of you, Susan, for a long time now, you know how much things change when you have a child and then change again when you have number 2 or number 3. And as they grow and as your time or attention is divided by multiple kids, obviously that's a challenge as well. So today we want to talk about loving and juggling multiple kids and how that can actually change a mom for the better. So we did an Instagram poll and we asked moms, was it harder for you to go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3 kids, and the results were actually evenly split, like almost right down the center between all 3, evenly split. So what do you guys think? Was it harder for you to go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2?
I think 1 to 2 was harder for me. 0 to 1 was funny because, you know, your whole life changes and you're like, oh my goodness, but it's just the one baby and you have the 2 parents and you know, we've been so fortunate to have family that wanted to help and be so excited about Reese. The 1 to 2, I mean, I remember even early on with Jack, and Jack is now 6 months old, so it hasn't been that long, but early on being like, oh my goodness, how do people even do this? And feeling very much like I had no idea what I was doing and overwhelmed. And then also there's these little pockets of joy where, you know, watching Reese be a big sister has been such a blessing and something that I will treasure so much, and watching her evolve. And I remember one of my friends told me that your older child will impress you beyond belief. And there will be things that you never imagined that they would be capable of. And just all of a sudden they are. And that's just been Reese, you know, watching her be an older sibling. So I think it's definitely been more of a challenge for the 1 to the 2 for me. But yet it's something that I've enjoyed so much so far.
Yeah. What about you, Megan?
For me, both were a big transition. But I think 0 to 1 was a tough transition for me because I was so used to just going and doing. And, you know, I'm an extrovert. And so I would just be like, sure, I'll go do this. Sure, I'll, you know, go bebop around, do whatever. And from 0 to 1, we had just moved up here to DC. We had no family. We didn't really know anyone. I also had some complications. And then we moved a week before he was born. He came early. So like I literally brought him home to moving boxes and all of it was just really chaotic. So, and then I kind of felt like I was a little bit on house arrest because didn't know anyone, didn't have a lot of people again in the area. And so,
with like a really bad warden.
Like, what do I do with
like
this?
A warden that like spits up
with
on
his
you.
Little baby.
It's not fun.
Yeah. And I had no idea I was my first time being a mom. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I think that was probably a really big transition for me. But I also think 1 to 2 is huge because then you're outnumbered if you're by yourself.
Yeah. I was 0 to 1 for sure because like you said, Megan, you like to go and do, and I wanted to get out of the house, but I'm also not good at doing stuff like on a whim. I wanted to be prepared. So I wanted to have everything that I needed in the diaper bag. And it just got to be like too much. I'm like, well, I'll just stay home then. It just changes your life. I think it just you go from thinking about yourself and your husband to having to think about this entire other human, who's totally reliant on you.
I'm always late. And so I also had to realize like, okay, you can't just walk out the door. You have to pack 20,000 things just to get out. And of course I would always forget one thing or whatever. So that was a big, big change.
Yeah, for me, it was definitely 1 to 2. And that's because with 1, I was bored a little bit. They just don't do much in the beginning. Adorable, but they don't do much. For me to go from 1 to 2, it's just this constant juggle. Like, okay, who do you get out of the car seat first? Because if I get this one out, she can run. But if I get this one out, it was a lot. And then, of course, there's never any sleep when you go from 1 to 2 because one's napping, one's not. It was, oof.
Yeah. What was your biggest concern, all of you, about going from 1 to 2? Because we were kind of joking about how Dad's biggest concern is getting a car that fits more kids. But like for moms, it's totally different.
Yeah. I'll go. I think my biggest concern was, what would happen when one person was by themselves with the 2? And you guys mentioned it. I mean, you're outnumbered all of a sudden and you're like, oh no, what's the one going to do while the other's doing this and while I've got this? And I think one of the things for me that's been a really unique challenge with, and I'm sure a lot of other moms can relate to this, is I'm exclusively pumping with Jack. So I've also felt like a lot of times I'm just like hooked up to the pump and I'm trying to juggle. And now he's like really mobile already. So he's like grabbing the pumps and then Reese is like, but Mom, I need this. So I'm like, pick the pump up and then the baby's on the bed. And then I'm like, all right, we're going to make sure he's okay in the middle of the bed. Like he's not going to move. I'm going to be gone for, 10 seconds, but still it makes me nervous. And then I'm, walking around with this pump and I know there are wearable pumps and I've tried all of them and they don't work for me. So I'm like, if someone could make one that would work for me, that'd be great. But I think that was the main thing. And then I think my other big concern, which is just like something that has always made me anxious, is just people getting sick. And so I have been so worried about Reese going to school and getting germs and bringing them home to the baby. And that's been something that, I pray about every day, and the Lord has been so wonderful to us with that so far. And, there have been germs and we've just dealt with it and it's been fine. And I think I've been constantly reminded that he is always watching out for us and that, it's not just me that's going to have to figure out how to heal a sick baby. Like he has healing powers and he will heal. And we've seen that already in Jack's life. So those were kind of my 2 main things that I was really nervous about and still try to deal with on a daily basis, but I've seen them be a little bit easier to handle than I thought they would be.
No, the sick thing is that is like a triggering fear. So when I had Emily, who's second to Megan, Megan got this stomach bug. It was like projectile. You couldn't anticipate it. I did the Princess and the Pea thing. I stacked up all these comforters on the floor in the family room and I was sleeping with her out there because she would just sit up and throw up and then I'd just pick up the blanket and drop it outside the back door. It was the middle of the night. There was nothing to do. But in between that, I was nursing. Emily was a newborn. So I took a shirt, an Oxford shirt of Mark's, and I'd wear one shirt when I was with Megan, and then I took it off and put another shirt when I'd go to see Emily because I didn't want Emily to get it. She was so little. And then Megan ended up in the hospital dehydrated. So Mark was with her and I was with Emily. And so, yeah, that sick thing, it triggered me from the get-go.
Mm-hmm. You have another person to think about. Yeah. Yep. So how do you guys see the challenge of parenting multiple kids change as kids get older? Like you said, Laura, the baby will roll off the bed. Hopefully when they're 10 and 12, that's not going to be a concern of yours. So like, how do moms have to change the way that they see juggling and loving multiple children? How does that change as your child goes from 2 to 12?
I mean, one thing I would say even now, so they're not that much older. They're 4 and 1. So it's not like they're, middle schoolers or whatever. But one thing I have seen is if I pick up one of them, the other one instantly wants to be picked up. Or if one of them has something, the other one wants it. And so they're at that age now where I'm kind of like, okay, well, you're just gonna have to take turns and just because I pick one up doesn't mean you need to be picked up. But it's really hard to explain that because they're both still little and I both still feel like they need a lot of attention and affection. And so that's been a big challenge of how do you explain to the 4-year-old who's still really little and kind of a baby in and of itself that like you have to pick up the smaller baby because you have to carry them down the stairs,
Right. Oh my word.
So cute. We have a baby in the room.
He's so cute.
He looks like he just woke up.
know.
He's like, what?
Oh,
yeah.
he's a crazy
How
man.
old is he now?
He's 6 months. He's huge.
Oh, he's so
big
cute.
boy. Big boy.
Yeah. He is so little.
We were just talking about, Megan was saying, that a little one doesn't know that he can't be picked up because you're holding, Reese doesn't know that she can't be picked up. She just wants to be held by mom. So
Yes.
do you guys have any tricks for that? Like, something really practical to give Megan? Sometimes I would say, this is your brother's turn. I'll pick you up in a second. You'll have your turn in a second. Distracting is usually helpful too.
Yeah, and I think Megan said that they have to learn to take turns. But to your point, Abby, your original question was right before that.
How do the needs change as they get
How do
older?
the needs change? That's such a short season, and I think that's by the time I got to my third. My oldest was at the age where they could follow instructions more. Like I took Megan's 2 kids to the playground, and I was like, oh my gosh. James is 4 running off on, climbing everything and out of sight. And then Beck is toddling around wanting to go in the opposite direction. Well, that changes. By the time they're 6, they kind of know where they can go and you don't worry about them like straying off in a playground. So that is the thing that changes as they get older. The older ones get more independent and can actually help.
Yeah. Well, don't they, as kids get older too, their emotional needs are different. It becomes about, your daughter getting upset over drama with another girl at school and your son is stressed because he didn't make the baseball team or whatever it is. And like, you have to be the counselor, the coach, all these things to multiple kids. Like, how do you know what hat you're wearing each day? Oh
gosh, that's where, what did you say in the beginning of the intro? We become a better person because you just stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Kids make you stretch.
Yeah. Megan and I were chatting about this a while ago about the challenges when you have kids that demand different amounts of attention. And that's something that I deal with my kids. One of my sons is happy to sit in his room and read a book. The other one will rarely sit in his room alone. He likes to be like, he wants to be underfoot. He wants to go to the grocery store with me. And so it's so easy for me to give him a lot of attention, where it's a little bit trickier to give the other one the attention. They require different amounts. So like, how do we, as moms, not just respond to what they're asking for, but actually parent what we think they need? Or are those the same things?
Growing up in a family of 5, I would definitely say there were certain kids that were louder than the others or, just more rambunctious or more outgoing, whatever you want to call it. And so I think because they were louder or more vocal about their needs, they were definitely paid attention to more. But then I think there were certain situations where there was 1 or 2 of them that were really quiet and maybe there was something going on, but it wasn't super apparent. And so it kind of it could get missed.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think, but that being a parent now makes total sense because of course, if one child is screaming and crying in your face, of course you're going to go to them first. And if the other one's fine. So it makes total sense, but I can also see how when you get into middle school and high school, how those personalities can definitely dictate where the parents spend their time and focus. Because if there's one child in high school that's constantly getting in trouble, of course, the parents are going to focus on that child's behavior versus the one that might seem good on the surface, but may have something else going on that they're just not seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because, I feel like growing up, I have a very different personality from my brother. And I'm really interested to see, what my two kids are going to be like, because there's already a lot of differences in their personality. Reese is very vocal, and like if there's something going on with her, you're going to know about it because she's going to tell you. Jack already, you can tell he sort of is observant, but he also knows that he may need to like speak up if he wants attention. So he's a very loud talker when he makes sounds. So I'll be interested to see, you know, when he starts talking. But that is something that I think, you know, my personality naturally, I'm like, I want to give everybody attention and, you know, see what they need, like how to. And it's funny because I realized the other day I was running around, you know, okay, Reese, what do you need? Jack, what do you need? And Josh was actually sitting on the couch and he was a little upset about something. And I realized, oh, I have neglected you. Like I haven't talked to you at all. And are you okay? You know, and we had like a funny moment. We were laughing about the stupidest thing. I had put the pack and play down. We were traveling. I put the pack and play down on his hat accidentally. And it was like, you know, going to leave this huge indentation, like right where, but then we were like, oh no, we can't move it because Jack was in there. And I could tell for a second, I was like, oh no, this might be like a little fight because I had done this. And then we both looked at each other and we started laughing so hard to the point that we were both like crying, laughing. And I was like, you know what? We needed that. We needed to just like have a good laugh about, you know, trying to like share all of our attention with everything and like making mistakes. And I know it was minor, but you know, like that was the only hat he had brought. And he's like, man, I'm going to have to wear this tomorrow and it's going to have this huge it actually didn't. But it was just a moment for me where I was like, okay, that was a good little reset and a reminder of, you know, we just can't, there is a limit to the attention I think that we can give, and you almost have to give yourself some grace with that, which I'm working on that.
I think that's so interesting what you said about how Jack is kind of finding his voice, because Beckett was the same way. He was like so quiet and sweet when he was born. And I think he quickly learned like, man, I got to speak up in this house if I'm going to get any attention, because James is very vocal too. Yeah. So it's really interesting.
So this might all just be like anecdotal but do you think there's a number of kids that kind of unites parents? So like if you have one child, you're both kind of focused on the kid. If you have two, maybe you're both, it's man on man. But like if you have three, does that like really bring husband and wife together because you're outnumbered? Or like what's the number of children that is best for a marriage?
Oh, goodness. That depends on the marriage. I have to say, what do they say? You go to zone defense, you know, after three. I don't think there's any number. I really think it depends on personalities. I think Mark got a lot more involved the older our kids got and the more children we had, because he saw that it wasn't going to happen if it were just into me. So he learned to anticipate a little bit better. Like, oh, we got to do that. Oh, you got to do that. And then we got better at planning those crunch times, you know, like the morning when you're trying to get some off to school and some are still in diapers. And then, you know, just weekend sports, when they all got into that, it was definitely, you have to have a game plan on who's going to do what, and where, and where you're missing a car ride somewhere that you got to call, phone a friend.
Mm-hmm. My friend just had number 7 a few months ago, just had child number 7. Yeah. And like for them, they are each other's person. I mean, they already were, obviously. That's how you get 7 kids. But like they are 100% like we have to have each other's backs. Otherwise, it's pure chaos in that house.
So what would you say, hypothetically, if someone had 2 kids and they were waffling on a third?
Go for it.
Yeah, I want to hear this answer too.
Do it.
So for me, my adjustment.
Or if one is firm, they want a third, and the other one's waffling.
Do it.
Do it. Yeah. I would say because my adjustment was 1 to 2, 3 was not a big deal to me. It just wasn't. And because by that time, you know, Megan was almost 5. She was a helper at that point. So 3 was not a biggie.
Do it. How do you guys think that a mom grows as her family grows?
Oh my goodness. I think, the other day, we were traveling on like the worst day ever to travel, which is the Sunday after Thanksgiving, with a 6-month-old and a 4-year-old. And I was like, wow, I might be stupid, but this was the only way to do it. So anyway, but we did it, and it was not smooth. It's never smooth for anybody, right? But it was so worth it to see family and all of that. But anyway, the point of that is that we got home, and I finally like laid down in my bed after getting everybody situated, and it was a late arrival and all that. And I thought, you know what? A year ago this time, I would have thought there's no way I could have pulled that off. I would have thought there is no way. And I think what you realize is you just do it. And there are so many things that you thought you couldn't do and that you never expected to be able to even like figure out. I know, what am I talking about? And you just figure it out. And I think we grow in so many ways. One of the things that I have really improved on is I was very much a control freak, is probably like the, layman's term for it. But I definitely want things organized, and I want to control them and all that. And you just have to let go with some of that with kids. And I've been proud of myself for being able to do that. There are still some days where I have my moments where I look around the house and I'm like, it's a mess and I can't take it anymore. But I do think just embracing some of the rawness and craziness and chaos of it all, there's a real beauty in that.
One of my kids has my personality. The other one has dad's personality. When you have these different personalities, you have to adjust your response. Not every kid loves the same way. So you might have to learn to express it in a different way, in a way you're not comfortable with. So like, I know Megan, you've talked about you're not like a physical touch person. You're not physical touch. And so do you have to, do you find that you're having to show love in a way that maybe stretches you a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, my husband's love language is words of affirmation, which I am also terrible at. Sometimes I'm like, how did he marry me? Because I'm just not good at words of affirmation. I don't love physical touch. So no, but I have realized that even though I'm,
Yeah.
thanks. Oh, thanks, Laura. You're so kind. But no, sometimes I've realized, okay, I might be tired at the end of the day. And especially if he gets home from work later or whatever it might be, or after I put the kids to bed, but I'm really trying to stretch myself to say, hey, okay, this is the time that we have together, and I might be tired, but I have to focus and we have to have some quality time together, because that is the only time during the day that we do have. So trying to be better at doing that. It's definitely a challenge, because I think as moms, we are super tired at the end of the day, especially if, you're taking care of your kids, you're working, you're doing whatever it might be. And it's just exhausting. And so I think I got into a really bad habit of, at the end of the day, I either like just wanted to literally go get in bed, or I just wanted to watch a show and like zone out. So trying to be better about that.
So I want to give a takeaway to the moms who are listening. When we wonder if we're cut out to be a mom to multiple children, to go from 2 to 3 or whatever, what's the pep talk or the truth that we can tell ourselves and then we can tell other people?
I love what you said, Laura, about how we stretch and grow and we just do it, because that is one of the most amazing things that I think I've seen moms and people, friends that I've seen do it, is they just do it. You're like, how are you doing all this? How are you making all this time? How are you such a good mom? And you're a great employee and you're, doing this and that. I don't understand how you do all of this, but you just kind of stretch and grow and you do it. And they are such a blessing. And it is such a short period of time, because I mean, people always tell me, they're like, oh, you only have 18 summers with your kids or whatever. I'm like, don't say that. That sounds terrible. Because it is so short and so fast that I want to enjoy it while I'm in it. So I'm just always so impressed by moms and how they have the capacity and the ability to do everything that they do, especially in this day and age where a lot of moms are kind of doing it all.
Susan, what would you say?
I would say, to add to what Megan said, just do it, but don't beat yourself up about it. So just know that nobody sees your flaws or your house that you left so quickly or all those other things. And even if they did, they'd have empathy with you. They wouldn't judge you, most of them. And so be kind to yourself. Know that you're doing a great job. And if it's less than perfect, it's okay.
Jack agrees.
Yeah.
One thing that really helped me, you guys, and I've seen this already be so true, is somebody told me, think about your siblings and how much you love them. And if you're an only child, that doesn't apply. So I'm sorry about that. But think about your siblings in this case of adding multiple kids, and how much you love your brothers and sisters and whoever is in your family. And think about the gift that you're giving your children to give them more siblings. Mm-hmm. And that these are the people, the siblings are the ones that are going to have each other forever. And I think that just really has rung true to me, to think about even Reese and Jack as adults. It's hard to imagine, but it will be true one day. And them having each other to rely on, and to spend time together. And they already have so much fun together. I mean, Jack's biggest smiles are for his sister, which is so cute. I'm like, golly, girl, what is it that you're doing that the rest of us aren't doing? But he's a smiley guy. But it is, just such a special relationship. And I do think when it comes to how much we love our kids and giving our children gifts, giving them another one to love, is such a beautiful gift. So I'm going to tell my husband to watch this podcast so he can know why they need another one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another bestie.
Yeah.
Laura, thank you again for being with us today. We hope that you can come back and join us for another episode. Maybe we talk about marriage on the next one, because I think we got a lot to say about
and
that.
Jack, he was so cool. Jack, you were so good.
Good job. Special guest by you. You did great. Good job.
Engage with us on social media. We are imom.com on Instagram. You can follow Laura again at Laura M. Rutledge. And thanks for listening.
He's laughing. Jack, you were so good.
You want to smile?
You were so good.
Give her a big smile.
Thanks for listening to the iMom podcast. iMom is the motherhood program of the nonprofit organization Family First. Along with our fatherhood program, All Pro Dad, we exist to help you love your family well. Subscribe to our daily email, the iMom Minute, by going to imom.com/subscribe and get tons of great ideas, insight, and inspiration. The iMom podcast is hosted by me, Abby Watts, along with Susan Merrill, Megan Tigner, and Chloe Blumenthal.